Ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, and do not follow any steps and the footsteps of Shaitan. Indeed, to you he is a clear enemy. Unfortunately, in today's world and in the lifestyle that we live in the Western world, and living amongst the people of the West and under the rulership of the West, young people and older people, but especially the youth, face a lot of unprecedented temptations, challenges and difficulties. Unfortunately, because of the society we live in, our shabab and our young people are exposed to a very large amount of vices and sins and environments which can cause them a lot of harm. Not in the sense necessarily of physical harm, meaning their lives are put in physical danger, but their souls and their nafs becomes corrupt, intoxicated, and it can be dangerous to the effect where they can actually divert from the true path of the religion of Islam as a whole. Some of these temptations and some of these issues which young people face, especially today, which I want to try and address these problems with practical solutions so that people can overcome them and they can realize the ways to avoid these temptations. Some of these things include music, addiction to social media, being put in the environments which cause them harm, whether that be through haram images, through haram sites, things like drinking and alcohol, taking drugs and getting involved in crime as well. And you may think that these things don't actually affect our young people and that it will not affect them in any way, but the reality is most of our young people today and our Muslim Shia youth have been exposed to these things, and a lot of them have actually been captivated and taken over by these issues as well. And inshallah, if we as a society and a community can come together and create a plan and an action plan to help young people stay away from these matters and to keep them engaged in something which is actually beneficial and interesting for them, they won't be as affected. And with these issues such as music, alcohol, drugs and crime, the temptation is always there. There is always something which the shaitan has placed to try and drag people into these things. It is not necessarily so obvious all the time. Sometimes it comes in very subtle ways that we cannot instantly recognize. So it's important that from a young age we teach our children and our young people to be aware of how to counter these things. And the most important thing to remember is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the religion of Islam provides protection and provides cures for these vices, for these different sins, and for all of these temptations. And the Ahlul Bayt have, upon their reflection and understanding of the words of the Holy Quran, came to us and explained. Of course, the Ahlul Bayt being guides for humanity, guides for our souls, they have understood the Quran truly, and they have came to us and provided us with ways in which we can protect ourselves and prevent ourselves from indulging in these haram pleasures which are so commonly found. Now, the first point I want to speak about is the danger of haram entertainment, specifically music. Music is something which you cannot avoid, not just in the West, but in the East as well. And the first point I want to make is that the times that we are living in today are not like times in previous ages. And I mean specifically in the last 10 to 20 years, these are the most challenging times for the believers. And it's not me who says this, but it's the Ahlul Bayt themselves. Because they have told us that during the ghaibah and the occultation of Imam Mahdi, the mu'mineen will undergo the most difficult and troublesome times and difficulties. This is because during the lifetime of the other Imams, when they were present, people would be able to go to the Imams and ask them for help. If there was an issue and they said, unfortunately, my son, my daughter, they're doing this bad thing, they would be able to get advice from the Imams. However, during the occultation of the Imam, we do not have a direct means to go forward and to ask him for help. This is the important thing to bear in mind. Whenever these difficulties come over you, you have to realize that you are living in a very difficult time period. But there is a way in which you can be saved. In the Holy Quran, we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and of mankind is the one who purchases idle talk to mislead from the path of Allah without knowledge. Now this phrase, idle talk, what does it mean? Idle talk, as interpreted by our ulama and our scholars, has come to mean that type of talk which has no benefit to people. That type of conversation that you have, or these discussions you have, which have no relevance, they do not affect your life in a positive way. Other scholars have interpreted it to mean music or haram entertainment. With music, back in the earlier days of mankind, if somebody wanted to go and listen to haram music, or they wanted to go and listen to haram entertainment, it was much more different than it is today. Back then, if you wanted to go and listen to something, you would have to actively go out and seek it, meaning you would have to get changed and get dressed with the knowledge that you want to go to a place and listen to music. You would have to then physically walk to that place, enter it, and have the knowledge that you're doing this. You would have to physically go and be in the presence of it. Whereas nowadays, we have access to music in our pockets at all times. All it takes is to take out your phone, unlock it, press one button, and you're flooded with music. You're flooded with haram entertainment. This is a big problem, especially for young people, with the rise of apps like TikTok. How easy is it that you go onto your phone, you click one button, and the whole concept of TikTok is that they have something called a For You page, meaning you do not get to control what is being shown to you. Meaning that if a young person goes on TikTok, the first thing they could open up could be a haram image, it could be a haram video. And they have no way of defending themselves against being exposed to this. And this is a worry, because Imam Sadiq tells us that music is the ladder to fornication, to zina. Meaning that it is the first step into leading into this horrific, disturbing sin. But for some reason, our parents and parents in our communities don't seem to pay attention to how dangerous these things are. For example, if we come and we sit in a muhadara here every week, you will see sometimes a child going on their phone and instantly music is blaring out, or they're watching a video on YouTube or TikTok. The type of videos which they watch, young people today will call it brain rot. And it's in the very word itself. It is rotting away their brains. They think it's funny, they think it's entertaining, but with every video they watch, they're becoming dumbed down. If you look back 50 years when there was no social media, you had children going into the house at the age of 5 years old, and then you have children and teenagers becoming mujtahids before they have even reached 20 years old, such as Shaheed Muhammad Baqir. Nowadays, these same children, when they reach that age of 20 years old, their brains haven't even developed properly. Why? Because they have been exposed to such terrible things that they see online constantly, all the time. And it's not just me saying this. Psychological studies have shown it as well, that when your children are exposed, and what they call them today is iPad kids, these children grow up without the interaction of parents and friends, without being outside. They stay at home all day and they sit on their iPad watching cartoons and videos. Their brains are not functioning properly. They do not have the real experience of what it's like to be a child. And so they grow up with a lot of behavioural issues. They grow up not able to communicate with people their age. They're not able to communicate with people older than them. They're shy. They become anxious. They become depressed. Because what child wants to be taken away from something which makes them feel comfortable, which they are used to, and being put in an uncomfortable situation? In the last 20 years, this has become the reality for them. And it's dangerous because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns us in that verse of the Quran against being engulfed by this idle talk, this pointless entertainment. With music especially, the type of lyrics which you find in music are the definition of pointless talk. If you listen to any singer these days, if you look, for example, at pop music, if you take any singer, Taylor Swift, for example, the lyrics and the things she talks about are meaningless. You are sitting listening to a music which talks about being in love and I wish I could be with this person and so and so. A person listening to this is putting themselves in a false reality. They're not living in the current reality they're in. They're dreaming about something which could be, something which may never be, but they're setting themselves up for expectations. Alternatively, if you look at movies and the type of movies which children watch, not just adult movies, but children's movies as well, and Disney movies, you have the incorporation of LGBT into them, so that young people grow up thinking that this is something which is acceptable and that Islam doesn't have a say in it. Another issue is with Hollywood movies. In Hollywood movies, for example, the romance type of films, what do you see? You see that the story is often about somebody who cheats on their husband or wife. They have an affair. And the way in which they do this is not condemned in the movie. In fact, that person is often made out to be the victim. So a young child who maybe watches this movie, or even a teenager who watches a movie like this, grows up thinking that it's okay to cheat on my husband or wife when I get married, because the movies say it, and the movies make it look good. And in fact, it is that person's fault that I had to cheat. This is the type of things which you don't instantly notice when you watch a film, but when someone explains it to you and you take a step back and look at it, this is the type of messages that people are getting. As well as this with music, you have a lot of haram lyrics, a lot of swearing, a lot of talking about sexual desires, talking about drinking alcohol, gambling, drugs. These type of things, when a child listens to them, they accept it. They think this is cool. They think this is something which is okay because most people around me listen to this type of stuff, and therefore it's fine. And the common thing I hear when I talk to people about music is, it's just words. It's just lyrics. It's just music. It doesn't mean I'm actually going to go and do it. Yet 5 years down the line, these people are drinking alcohol themselves. They're taking drugs and they're engaging in crime. They're doing fraud. They're stealing money from people. Music and entertainment like this, especially when you grow up on it, has a very big effect on young people. Amir al-Mu'mineen Imam Ali says that anybody's heart who is occupied with music is a heart which is empty of the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Music is one of the most condemned things in our religion. Again, Imam Ali alayhi salam tells us that the angels will not even enter into a house which has musical instruments in it. Never mind if music is actually being played in that house. The house that contains musical instruments which are used for haram purposes, the angels do not enter into, and the prayers of the people in that house are not answered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala either. So what's the alternative? The alternative is, instead of listening to music in your free time, listen to the Holy Quran. Some people think that the Holy Quran has to be a very boring thing and we're just reading the words. No, the Quran is meant to be recited beautifully. If you are desperately in need to listen to something whilst you carry your actions during the day, then put on reciters like Abdul Basit, or modern reciters like Ayub Asif, or reciters like Haidar al-Majuni. These people are accessible on YouTube, on Spotify, any music platform you can find the Holy Quran. Why not listen to that? Why not listen to something which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala recommends you to listen to? Of course, some people don't want to listen to Quran all the time, in which case you can listen to al-Tamimi, for example. One of our scholars said, Baha al-Musawi, said something very nice, and it doesn't translate well into English, but he said, we as Shi'as don't listen to al-Tamimi, we don't listen to music. We listen to someone like Muhammad Baqir al-Haqqani, someone who has utilized the words of Ahlul Bayt and given them to young people, especially in a way which they will understand. Now some people will say, well, I might need music, even if it doesn't have words in it, just to listen to when I'm in the gym, for example. I can't concentrate in the gym without music. Even then we have a remedy for this. If you are in the need for something which will make you feel energetic, something which will make you feel passionate, then you have Azat Shur, Shur, for example, with a quick pace to it, which will bring about that energy within you. There is always an answer, and there is always a solution to replace harm. The second thing we need to talk about is social media itself, and especially the addiction which some people have to social media. Social media can be used for a lot of good things. But overwhelmingly nowadays we see it used for negative purposes. Now, I have grown up, I'm not exposed to it as much, but I know that people who are younger than me are exposed to it, especially on Snapchat. The overriding thing which people talk about is fights and the beef and the arguments that people have with each other. Who said this about who, and who's going to retaliate and react like who, and we're going to go and do this and this. Or you have it with men and women, boys and girls talking to each other and engaging in haram discussions and talking about things which you shouldn't be doing outside of marriage. And this is very common. The issue of riba is pretty big on social media as well. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns us about this. He says, avoid much suspicion. For having suspicion, some suspicion is a sin, it's haram. And do not spy or backbite about one another. Social media is the perfect place to do so. As I said beforehand, if you wanted to go and talk badly about someone, you would physically have to go and meet them. Whereas now you can sit in your bed in the middle of night and text someone, oh, did you see what this person did? Oh, did you see what that person was wearing? That person was meeting with that person. It's so easy. Riba is the most easy it has ever been in today's world. And it's careless. It is pointless as well. Amir al-Mu'mineen tells us that your tongue is a beast. If you let that tongue loose, then it can devour things. People don't understand the damage which even one small comment can make. One small rumour can be so damaging to a person's life. It can cause that person to, God forbid, even commit suicide. You may think this is an overreaction. It's not an overreaction. Every day when I go through social media, I unfortunately see news stories. This person, 15 years old, was bullied for the way they looked or the way they dressed, and they killed themselves. In which case you have almost committed murder on that person. You have killed them just because you thought it was funny to take the mick out of them, to make fun of them. For what? My advice with social media for parents is that if your child is under 14 years of age, they should not have any social media at all. And parents will get backlash for this, and they will say, my child, in their school, everyone has social media, why can't my child have it? Well, at the end of the day, do you want to be like these type of parents, Western parents, who do not care about what their children do? Or do you want to raise them in an Islamic way, where they respect you as their guardian, and they listen to what you say, and they respect you, and they grow up with intelligence and intellect? Scrolling for hours on social media is a waste of a child's time. It's a waste of an adult's time as well. Instead of studying, instead of going and getting a job for themselves, earning money, starting to provide and helping for their families, and ultimately being able to buy themselves nice things as well, instead of this, they spend their time doing nothing, watching brain rot videos, as we talked about. Why not spend that time getting to know your religion? Sometimes people come and they say, where did you learn about so-and-so? And I don't know that much, but they come and they ask, where did you learn these things? It's very simple. If you spend 1 hour on TikTok, then you're not going to learn anything about your religion. If you spend 1 hour Googling about Islam, you will learn so much. Even if you attempt to read one hadith or one verse from the Quran a day, this is better than spending hours watching pointless entertainment videos. And from this you will get to know your religion. You don't want to be of those people who doesn't know anything about their faith, so that when one day you're in school or university, someone asks you, why do you pray like this? Why do you use a turban? Why do you dress like this? You'll be able to answer them confidently because you'll know your religion. The other point with social media is the fasad, the moral fasad, the inner fasad, which can be brought about as a result. Unfortunately, the way in which your eyes are used cannot be controlled sometimes. As I said, if you open up TikTok, you can be bombarded with certain haram images, pornographic images, and it's important that we speak about this, especially on the minbar, because at the end of the day, if you're not talking to your children about these issues, they're going to grow up thinking they can never speak to you about it or confide in you when they have an issue. And it will lead to problems in their later life when they get married and they're not able to understand how people should be in a relationship with one another, and then they end up getting divorced. A lot of this will stem from the fact when they were younger, you did not address these issues with them. You did do not address the concepts of sexuality, of their exposure to pornography, which is so prevalent. Studies show that over 90% of children are watching these things. 90% of children are exposed to these things. And if you're not having conversations with them, then what do you expect them to turn out like? They'll turn out to be unhealthy, deranged individuals who do not know how to even speak to someone of the opposite gender, for example. And that person will have no chance of success in their life. So, how do we stop it? We limit the usage. Parents should stop their children from going on their phones all day long. You should encourage them to take part in acts of ibadah. You should encourage them to go and hang about with people who are good friends, friends who will bring them closer to Islam, not friends who will take them out drinking and going clubbing and having fun and all this type of stuff. If you are a child or a young person on social media, don't follow random pages which will bring you no benefit. Follow Islamic pages. We have so many beneficial Islamic pages which you can follow. On Instagram, for example, people think it's just for showing yourself off. No. I'll give you 2 channels just now that you can follow. The first one is University of Ahlul Bayt. Every day they post beneficial content, teaching you about Islam. The other one, for example, Insta Ahlul Bayt. These pages talk to young people and they will discuss Islamic values, Islamic ethics, morality in a way which young people can understand, which is not boring. And through this, you will find yourself having a sense of belonging to that community. The third thing I want to address is drinking and taking drugs and crime as well. And when I say crime, I don't mean that they're going out and shooting people and killing people, no. The type of crime which you see a lot of people engage in nowadays is financial crime, to do with money. Young people have become obsessed with the idea of getting as much money as possible because they see on social media, coincidentally, that people are living such great lifestyles. Maybe they live in Dubai, they have a Mercedes G-Wagon, they have a lot of money to buy whatever clothes they want, and they see this and they think, I have to be like this as well. I have to live this type of lifestyle. And the only way to get it is by money. And of course, you're not going to get that kind of money by doing a regular job. So we'll do crime, we'll do some fraud. We'll steal some details from people and it will get us easy a couple of £1,000 in our banks. It's common, it's very common. More common than the elders might think it is. And you need to be thinking, is my child doing this? And if you're a child, you need to be thinking, why am I doing this? What's the benefit of it? Because unfortunately, when the police come and knock at your door and you end up spending a couple of years in jail, your life is ruined. Not just in this life, but in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, unless you repent, of course. In the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O you who believe, He is addressing the mu'mineen, He is addressing the believers. Intoxicants, meaning things which get you drunk, for example. Gambling, idols, and divining arrows are an abomination of shaitan's work. So avoid them so that you may succeed. Now if you then decide that you're going to succumb to drinking alcohol with your friends, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says you're not going to succeed in this life or in the akhirah as well. The dangers of alcohol, smoking weed, drugs, doesn't just have a physical impact on your body. It doesn't just lead to the decay of your brain and your lungs. It also leads to the decay of your spirituality and your morality as well. They lead to an addiction. And social media is an addiction as well as these type of things. Both things, with music for example, some people say, well, I can't go to sleep at night without music. And you'll say, well, you're addicted to it then. You say, no, I'm not addicted to music. How can I be addicted to music? The same way that if a person who is an alcoholic, they can't go a day without drinking alcohol. We say this is an addiction, right? So if you can't go with 1 hour without going on Instagram or Facebook, then you also have an addiction. You also have a flaw within yourself that you need to fix and remedy. You've not completed yourself, you have not worked on yourself enough to get around this. In regards to alcohol, in regards to drinking as well, a lot of the time, fights that you see, which lead in deaths, which lead in serious injuries with people, always start with alcohol. All you need to do is to go into the city centre on a Friday or Saturday night, and you'll not only see a lot of violence, you'll see a lot of vulgar language, you see a lot of people behaving in ways which are just despicable and disgusting. You need to think about whether You want to go down that type of lifestyle, or you want to go down the lifestyle of someone who can be at peace with themselves? Because at the age of 13, 14, you come to that decision, where the people you're sitting with in your school, or the people you're friends with, will start going out and drinking alcohol, and they'll start taking drugs. And I'm not going to sit here and say, well, you shouldn't drink, it's bad for you, because everybody knows it's bad for you, yet people still go and do it anyway. So what I propose is to give you two choices. The first choice is that you go and you end up living that lifestyle of that of a Ned or that of a junkie, and in a couple of years' time you realise that you've got depression, you have nothing to cling on to. Your friends have all left you, abandoned you because you have no brotherhood with them. Your family have abandoned you and they don't want anything to do with you because you become a shame on that family name. Your Husseini or your mosque doesn't want to be associated with you because you have chosen to go down the path of making yourself a mockery of the religion of Islam. The other option is that you decide to start hanging about with Muslims who will take you on a path which is better, meaning that every Thursday you will come for Dua Kumayl, every Haram you will come and you will listen to them Haram, you'll do your laqab. Every day you'll read a verse from the Quran, and during Shahr Ramadan you gain the benefits of fasting. And from this, you'll become a person who is happy. You'll become at peace with yourself. You won't have a constant anxiety and depression lingering about wherever you go. And believe me, it does exist. And if anyone is listening to this just now, you're a teenager, and you have feelings of anxiety, I guarantee you that a lot of it will be because you're not close with your religion. Well, that is the truth. And I had it when I was a teenager as well. I had a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of uncertainty about what I wanted to do in my life. And I didn't feel happy. The minute I started learning about my religion, and the minute I started speaking to people who are older than me and are better influences on my life, I became at peace. And although a lot of us have a lot of way to go to even being near what we can class as a true Muslim, the steps that you take to try and become a Muslim and separate yourself from all of the evil influences which you might have in your life will bring you peace inside your heart. The bigger picture, and the reason why I'm talking about this today, is not just to protect you in this world, because anyone listening to this is my brother, but it's for the Akhirah as well. Some people, when they're young, especially me, I used to hate getting lectures on these type of issues. I used to hate being told, don't do this, don't do that. So I'm not going to sit here and say, don't go and do these things, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you, you don't need me to come and tell you. What I'm going to do is try and tell you what you can do to stay away from, and the things which you can actively do yourself to try and keep on the right path. In Hadith al-Qudsi, Allah says, I, meaning Allah, am as my servant thinks of me. If he comes to me walking, then I go to him running. Meaning, if you have been living your life in a way which isn't good, and you've been committing haram actions, it's okay. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy is ever all-encompassing. And the minute you go to him and you ask forgiveness for any of the sins or vices which you have carried out, then I swear, he will provide you with all of the mercy which you can imagine. Some people will say, well, I drank alcohol. And for the last 2 or 3 years I've been drinking alcohol and I've been having girlfriends. And they say, there's no point, now I'm too far gone. There's no point in me coming to the mosque and saying, yeah, I'm not worthy of it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be upset with me and ashamed of me. This is the opposite. If you are someone who has been living that lifestyle, you are the very person who should be going to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He is waiting for you to come to Him. He is waiting for you to come and ask for forgiveness. And you don't need to beg too much. Just a little forgiveness and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful for you. And if you go back and you do the same thing again, and you go back to Allah and you say, I'm sorry I did that again, He will forgive you again. As long as you're making these steps to go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Him for this forgiveness, then this is what He asks of you. And Imam Sadiq says that the believer is stronger than a mountain itself. So we shouldn't underestimate ourselves. If we're in that position where people are pressuring you to go and do something haram, you should be able to comfortably say to them, why would I go and do something like that? Unlike you, I have respect for myself, I have respect for my parents, and I have respect for my religion and the person who created me. Therefore, I'm pretty happy sitting, living a boring lifestyle, reading the Quran every night. I don't feel the need to go and go clubbing or go drinking. At the end of the day, I want to be at peace with myself, I don't want to please people around me who in 2-3 years' time I won't even know. So, to take these practical steps, you need to assess yourself. What influences are bad in my life do I need to cut out? And once you have established, write it down on paper. Don't be afraid of using a pen and paper or using a notepad on your phone to write down what bad things are affecting your life. Is it the friends who you're hanging about with? Is it the circles which you're associating yourself with? Am I not going to enough majalis, for example? Write these things down and physically act upon them. Once you've got it written down in front of you, it will be easier for you to cut these things out of your life. Secondly, replace anything haram in your life with halal. If you're spending most of your time at night listening to music, replace it with al-Tamimi or replace it with Quran. It doesn't necessarily mean that as of tonight you completely cut out music. That's ideal, but it's not practical. If you're thinking to yourself, I could listen to music right now, I'm bored. Instead of listening to music, just put on one verse of the Quran. And from there you'll slowly feel the influence of the Quran coming over you. You won't feel the need to have to listen to music to fill your gaps. The last thing is to seek good company. Your friend circles are a very big thing. And I'll tell you right now, you might not have a lot of people, if you want to go down the right path, that you can hang about with. Me, for example, I didn't have, for about 3 or 4 years, basically any friends who were Muslims and real Muslims who would keep me on the right path. I was alone. And you might be the same. If your friends are not leading you down the right path, you might need to take that step of withdrawing from them and being alone for a while. But I promise you, you have people like me, you have other brothers, for example, in our youth group at al-Tamimi, we all went through the same things. We all had to face these problems. And you can come to us and chill with us. And if you feel like you have nobody to hang about with, send me a message. And we'll go out for dinner, we'll go out to have something to eat. Some people will say, well, maybe I could do something like that, but isn't it boring being religious? Well, the religious people are at peace with themselves, and the non-religious people are living lives filled with stress and anxiety and depression because they have nothing to turn to. So, maybe you could say it is boring, but you can either live that lifestyle and be comfortable within your own skin, or you can live a life feeling uncomfortable and having an identity crisis for the rest of your life. My final reminder is that this life is a very short life, and it is purely a test. It is a test to see whether you are actually going to be a strong person, if you actually have the courage to follow in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks of you, or whether you become a weak individual who follows what the shaitan is and what he encourages you to do. He wants to destroy you slowly. So it's not as if one day you're going to wake up and you're going to be an evil person. It is with these things: misuse of social media, not lowering your gaze to haram sites, and listening to music which will slowly over time erode any of the goodness which you have in your heart and your soul, and it will take over with things like corruption and other vices. The last thing to point out is that Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, especially Imam Hussein alayhi salam, sacrificed everything they had in their lives to show you what it should be like for you to live your life. They sacrificed themselves as role models and as influences for you. So for you to go against what they preach is a disservice to them, and it's a dishonor to them, and it's something that should be avoided. And to finish, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant victory to the mu'mineen and mazlumeen and for all the shuhada. Please recite Surah Al-Fatiha after Salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.